Welcome back, land stewards. My name's Isabel, and today I'm here in eastern Wisconsin to teach you about some aquatic invasive species that can be found across the Midwest. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a non-native species known as Phragmites. I'll teach you how to identify it using some key visual features and then discuss methods of control. Phragmites is a very tall and fast-growing grass. It can reach up to 15 feet in height. Phragmites is native to Europe and Asia. While there are native species of Phragmites in the United States, the invasive species is far more prevalent in eastern Wisconsin, where I am. Phragmites can primarily be found in freshwater wetlands, riverbanks, and shorelines. It prefers wet soils, but like other common invasive species, it can adapt to drier soils and can be found in disturbed areas like roadside ditches and construction sites. Some key visual markers of Phragmites is that it's a rapid growing grass that can reach up to 15 feet tall. In the end of summer, it will have a large plume on the top of each stalk. Some key visual features that can help you identify Phragmites is its stem, its leaves, and its flowering plume at the top of the stalk. The stem of Phragmites is smooth and round. It's hollow on the inside, and it has a leaf sheath that will clasp all the way around the stem at the base of each leaf. So you can see here, if I pull back, this is that leaf sheath that clasps around the stem. One way to help you identify Phragmites with the leaf sheath is that even after the leaves fall off in the fall, the leaf sheath will remain clasped on the stem. Another good indicator that you have the invasive species of Phragmites is when you remove the leaf and the sheath, you may see some short white hairs right where the sheath and the leaf meet. The leaves of the Phragmites grass are fairly large. They can be anywhere from 2 inches to 5 inches wide and can be anywhere from 10 to 15 inches long. They tend to have this blue-green color, whereas the native Phragmites is more of a lime green color. At the top of each stalk of grass, towards the end of the summer, a flower plume will start to emerge. When it first emerges, it's gonna be a light green and purplish color, and as it fully develops, it'll become very fluffy and dense and turn a dark purple color. As the seeds develop, the plume will turn more of a brown color and then eventually be light brown and remain on the top of the stalk throughout the entire next season. Here's an example of a stalk from last season. As you can see, a lot of the seed head remained. It almost looks like a flag because all of the seeds tend to go in one direction. You can also see on this one that the stem is hollow and that these leaf sheaths remain on the stem throughout the entire next year. If you're looking to identify where Phragmites might be growing in the off-season, you're gonna wanna look for these stalks because if they're there, then the Phragmites will likely grow right there the next year. Phragmites are extremely invasive due to their rapid growth and reproduction. Phragmites grow up to 15 feet tall in a single year, meaning they're gonna shade out any plants that would take multiple years to reach that height. Phragmites can reproduce through the millions of seeds that they sprout from the top and spread through the wind, but they primarily reproduce through their root system called rhizomes. When these rhizomes spread, they can be above the ground and below the ground and send off tens or hundreds of new shoots in a single year. When Phragmites forms a really dense monoculture like this one behind me, then it can even alter the hydrology in the area, meaning where there once was standing water, there no longer is. This can alter the very specific requirements for native wetland plants. Phragmites' ideal habitat is the same area where a native cattail or wild rice might grow, meaning when their rhizomes spread and they form a dense monoculture, these plants get choked out. The tall and dense stands that Phragmites provide is not good habitat for hardly any mammals or birds that usually thrive in wetland areas. Marsh nesting birds are particularly affected by Phragmites. If you're looking for the most success when treating Phragmites, you're going to want to use a chemical form of control, or you can use a mixture of mechanical and chemical control. Remember, no matter which method of control you're using, it's always important to wear proper personal protective equipment. Proper personal protective equipment should always include boots, long pants that cover your ankles, some long sleeves that come down to your gloves, proper gloves for whatever method of control you're using, and then you may want to consider wearing a hat and some glasses to shield your face. Before you use any chemical methods of control on your Phragmites, you're gonna need to determine if you need a permit. If your Phragmites is growing in or near standing water, a permit may be required. You can go to the link below to determine if your situation requires an NR 107 Aquatic Invasive Species Management Permit. Before you spray, you're going to need to determine what kind of chemical you need. If you're in the upland with dry soils and no surrounding standing water, then you can use an agriculture formula of glyphosate, and it'll be about 41%. If your Phragmites is in or near standing water, then you are going to need an aquatic approved glyphosate mixture. These will be about 53% in the store. Remember, always read the label for specific requirements for the chemical that you're using, because the label is the law. Next, you need to gauge the size of your Phragmites colony. If you don't think that you could spray it all on foot with a backpack sprayer, then you may need to consider an ATV with a boom sprayer. Next, I'm going to give you some helpful tips to know when mixing herbicide, but remember, you always need to adhere to the chemical label. The first step to mixing chemical in your backpack is going to be to add half of the amount of water that you need total. The next step is adding the chemical to your backpack. General guidelines is adding 2 ounces of chemical per 1 gallon of water, but please remember to read the label and adhere to the guidelines. If you're using an aquatic use formula that doesn't already have surfactant included, then you're going to want to add 1 to 2 ounces of surfactant per gallon of water. Surfactant is similar to a soap, and it helps the herbicide adhere to the leaves of the plant. You may want to consider using 1 ounce of dye per gallon of water. This is going to help you determine where you've already sprayed and make sure that you don't overspray or walk into an area with herbicide. After you've added the surfactant and the dye, you can pour in the remainder of your water. Make sure you pour the water slowly so that the herbicide does not splash out of the backpack up into your face or onto your hands. Then you want to securely close the top of your backpack, but be sure not to over-tighten, as over-tightening over time will wear out the backpack and cause more leaks in the future. After you've secured the top of the backpack, you may want to tilt it back and forth a couple times gently to agitate the solution. This is going to ensure that the herbicide, surfactant, dye, and water are all able to mingle together and properly distribute. Now you're ready to spray. Make sure you're paying attention to the wind so that when you spray the herbicide, the droplets don't fly back and hit you. In larger patches, it's a good idea to consider working backwards. This would mean making a trail into the Phragmites and then moving your way backwards and spraying so that you never have to walk through the herbicide. If the patch is really large, you'll make several passes through the patch. When you're spraying, make sure you're aiming towards healthy stalks and leaves. You're going to want to make sure that you're coating the leaves thoroughly, but not spraying so much that the herbicide is dripping off. In a very small or sparse population, you may consider cutting and bagging the seed heads before you spray, but in most situations where monocultures are dense, this isn't going to be feasible. The best time of year to begin your chemical control is going to be after the seed heads begin to emerge. This is because after the seeds start coming out, the plant uses the leaves to pull extra nutrients down into the root system for reserves for the next year. If you spray Phragmites too early in the season, you may damage the plants and they might not go to seed, but generally the root system will survive and resprout the next year. It's pretty unlikely that you'll be spreading Phragmites through your control methods, but it is important to remember that Phragmites are very vigorous and this might be a multi-year process, and they will continue to spread even after it seems that they've been eradicated. If you do remove any plant material, like cutting seed heads, it's important that you bag it and you put it into your regular garbage that goes to the landfill and not into compost, as those seeds may be viable still. It's also important not to let Phragmites lay down because the stem can re-root from the leaf nodes. Once you have a good, clear bed where the Phragmites used to be, that's going to be a good time to put down a wetland native seed mix to get some reestablishment so that when the Phragmites do come back, there's more competition for them. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can take action today to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species.